Hey Danny, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. And you?
Yeah, not too bad. As you know, I'm Luca, the co-founder and co-owner of the Living Care Company. And I think it was probably a couple of years ago that we first spoke. In fact, I've got the date here. It was November 2022, actually.
Wow.
And you sort of come to discuss care and the possibility of care for a loved one of yours, your partner's dad. And we were thankfully able to help you. And well, it's February 2024 now, so it's been great to have you as a client. Thank you very much. But I wondered if you can spare some time just to tell us a bit about your experience.
Yes, of course.
Tell me a little bit about yourself, Danny. If you will. Whereabouts do you live?
Myself and my partner live in East London, but my parents-in-law live in the Midlands, and my father-in-law has Alzheimer's or dementia really severely now. So, yeah, it's been tricky because we're miles away.
Yes, it's hard to, well, it adds on that layer of complications, doesn't it? But how long did things take to go from being, just noticing that it started to become a problem, and how were they initially?
I mean, to be honest, the very, very start of it, I could see in 2016. Just
Yeah.
forgetful things at my wedding, little signs. Then he attended a memory clinic and all they said was possible early onset Alzheimer's. And he went to like memory clinics for a short while. And then along came COVID. So he was just living with my mother-in-law, and that was detrimental to his health. There was no stimulation for him whatsoever. And it just got worse and worse. I do think a big part of it being the lack of stimulation, because obviously they weren't allowed to go out or travel. It was just the two of them. They've been together 50 years. There just wasn't stimulation. And that's when I contacted you.
That's really interesting. But what were some of the first signs that you noticed?
I think, like, I got married in Suffolk at my stepdad's, and Simon went to the toilet and he just couldn't unlock the door at all. He had no idea how to unlock it, and it's not a difficult lock. And he was very disorientated around the house. And then he was meant to go and drive and collect something from me, and he was kept driving in the wrong direction. So we came back to the house, and then I got someone else to go and get stuff. So I could see it then. His temper, he started to have a temper. And I guess he sort of withdrew a little bit. He wasn't his usual self. He used to bake a lot. He sort of stopped doing that. And I guess it just progresses from there, or degresses, if that's the word.
He was living with progressively worse dementia for quite a few years, being supported by your mother-in-law.
Yeah.
What was the impact on her? How was she coping with things?
No, she didn't cope at all. She'd be in tears on the phone saying, I can't do this, I can't do this. All through COVID, basically, when people weren't really allowed to visit, she was getting more and more frustrated, tearing her hair out, crying. And so that's when locally we found somewhere local where people could just come in and watch him for a few hours to give her a bit of respite in the day. But obviously he became more and more, well, just worse and worse. So we called you because I soon realised that this sort of person coming now and again, and they'd let her down a lot. So she'd be about to go and then she'd get a text, oh, sorry, no one can come today, and things like that. Or send someone different and Simon wouldn't like them, and then he was difficult, and then, or she wouldn't like them. So it was really complex.
So there was no sort of control over who the carers that would come in and sort of sit with him and make sure he stays safe would be
And
no.
then, no, and then also obviously with a lot of Alzheimer's, people are up all night long doing the strangest, most peculiar things, like putting things in the weirdest places, like, I don't know, a CD in the freezer and, random stuff. And obviously there was no one to be up in the night to check on him. And if my mum-in-law was exhausted, then she wouldn't wake up, obviously. I mean, it's impossible. So, and then as it progressed, the past couple of years, he's got more and more incontinent. And that's been really problematic as well, because obviously then he wanders around because his bed's wet. So it's just, it just goes from bad to worse. It's a very difficult illness. It's so awful.
Really hard. Yeah. What was the thing that sort of took you from having the hourly care to thinking, right, okay, it's time to increase the provision there because whatever you've got is not dealing with the situation properly?
Well,
Prompted that.
probably my mum-in-law would have murdered him and pushed him down. I mean, she was literally could not cope at all, not even 5% cope. Like, I'm talking 0%. And
Yeah.
we're really busy working. So it's, it was all fine when we'd go up and take over and look after him. But I just knew he needed more stimulation and someone that could free her up to go and visit her other two sons that live abroad, or just go to the gym, or just meet her friends for lunch, just have a bit more of a life. So
Massively impacting on mother-in-law, really, wasn't it?
yes.
I think I remember that when we first spoke, you might have gone to stay with them for a little while to help support her as well.
Oh, we've stayed. I mean, my husband stayed with them all the time. It has a whole knock-on effect, because it has a knock-on effect on my relationship with my husband, that my relationship with my family, his relationship with both parents, trying to look after both of them for totally opposite needs. It has so much impact on everyone around. And the person with Alzheimer's doesn't have a clue that it's having this impact. It's tragic.
Apart from the obvious stress on your mother-in-law and then your husband and then yourself, what I mean, are there sort of disagreements about what the right pathway is or the right solution might be? Is is it just sadness that things are going sort of that way?
Oh, no. No, I
How
mean,
did
there are disagreements within a family when someone has Alzheimer's, because some people's natural reaction is put them in a home immediately. I can't deal with this, and I just need to shut the door because my brain can't do it.
yes.
And then other people have a lot more empathy within the family and want to try to make it work as long as it possibly can until it just can't, as
Yeah.
in removing the person from their home. So my partner and I have been adamant that we would keep him at home as long as was humanly possible, until even the carers felt it was time as well that he needed to be in a care home.
Yeah.
Whereas other members of the family were like pushing us to get him in a home immediately, but we fought them on it, and we're really glad we did. But that's the sort of problems that come up for people, is you'll have family members that it's no one's fault. It's human reactions to difficult situations, but some family members will just not be able to handle it at all, not even be able to handle the Alzheimer's person in a conversational way. And other people are born natural carers and will find the language that works for the Alzheimer's person and the rest of the family. So you'll find that it falls in two categories.
It's, but yeah, I've noticed that time and time again with families, actually, exactly what you expressed there. I think
Mm.
that sometimes for the individuals that just can't face it, to see a loved one like that, it's not, I wouldn't say it's necessarily uncaring. It's just that they might not have the ability to tolerate it or cope or
Yeah.
put up with it in their minds. The notion that that person has changed from what they remember, probably their parent who cared for them, to being a totally different sort of entity or different
Yeah. Yes.
individual, and they just can't bear to sort of see it.
Yes.
And others, as you say, go into that caring mode
Yeah.
and just get stuck in.
Yeah. That's exactly it. I've seen it with other friends whose parents have someone with Alzheimer's, and it's the same scenario in every family of anyone I know that's had to deal with it.
Okay, so going back to when living care started,
Everyone's adjusting to how it even works when there's a living person with a couple, you know?
mother-in-law felt as if her kind of space had been invaded initially.
I think so. I think so. And then obviously the Alzheimer's person picks up on energy. So if he sees his wife angry and upset with someone in the house, then he projects that as well. That's because people with Alzheimer's really, really pick up on energy. They do. So they pick up on energy, definitely. But the net carer came, Binti, and obviously I got quite involved in talking with the carers privately. So I warned her of all.
You were coaching them a bit and sort of preparing them, I believe, and supporting them, making friends with them, and all the rest of it.
Very important, because but each carer that's come, they need to know that whether it works out or not, it's not them. It's the situation they're coming into. It's nothing to do with their caring abilities. They're all been fantastic, and they've all done exactly what we've asked. So, I wanted to support each of them and just to give them a heads up of the sort of difficult situation that they were entering into.
Yeah, really interesting. Just looking at, so Binti was there for really quite a while and all the way until July. But yeah, so obviously it was difficult for mother-in-law initially, especially, to have someone in the house. But I think that eventually she then started to sort of see some of the benefits of it, and it sort of helped her, didn't it?
Definitely. I mean, the benefits were she could go away and see her sons abroad and not worry. She could come and stay here with us for a long weekend and not worry. She didn't have to make his lunches or breakfast. She didn't have to shower him. She could relinquish like all responsibility to a point. So it has been amazing to have that.
What were the wishes of your father-in-law? Had he always sort of wished never to go to a care home, that sort of thing, or had he not particularly expressed the preference either way?
He never talked about having Alzheimer's. He just ignored it.
Yeah.
They all ignored it as a family until it was really, like, apparent.
So he
You know,
never taught, yeah, if I need care one day, whatever you do this or don't do that.
no, but I know him so well. I've known him 22 years. I know that at this point where he's at, where it's really gotten, you know, very advanced, he would hate to be a burden. He even says now when he's comes with it sometimes, I'm such a burden on everyone. uh, You know, I just can't help.
So
I can't help people. So, he's a caring person by nature. He wouldn't want anyone to suffer with his illness, if that
so
makes
even
sense.
even now, 6 or 8 years after you first noticed a sign or two at your wedding, maybe even before that, there's still little moments of lucidity and realization of something, the situation.
Very occasionally. I mean, if you say brush your teeth, he doesn't even know what a toothbrush is now. It's very advanced now.
Well, obviously, we've worked together for over a year, maybe a year and a half. How did you feel supported in the process, or maybe how could have things been done better
Oh, no,
during the process?
everything's been done brilliantly. I've had such clear communication with everyone at the live-in care. I email, they sort it out. I tell them dates, the carer's away. They send me different options, and I choose which one I think would be suitable for one sane person and one not. So it's been amazing. So quick communication, quick sorting things out. It's
Who's
been
been
great.
looking after you? Was it Ruby or
Ruby. Ruby.
Yes, Ruby's brilliant.
She's brilliant. She totally gets it. I tell her dates that a carer's away. We've had other carers when Binty's been away, and they've been amazing. I mean, some of them, poor things, have come and the day that, there's been an accident and Simon's been rushed to hospital, and they've sat by his bedside at the hospital, having just arrived, not even unpacked their things. And it's been like amazing.
What makes a really good living carer?
I think adapting, well, it's very tricky, but I think obviously everyone with Alzheimer's is different. And so for someone like my father-in-law, they need stimulation, but not too much pushing to do something. And I think it's just reading the room, I guess, is what you call it. Learning how that person that they're caring for, what they respond well to, what they don't respond well to. So, like, if you want them to get dressed, pushing them to get dressed, some of them will just get dressed if you ask them. Some of them will be very reactive. So it's knowing to just leave them alone and come back again 20 minutes. Don't sweat the small stuff, if that makes sense. So if they want to sit in their pants all day, sit in their pants all day, because at the end of the day, there's no harm coming to them. Obviously, stepping in if something harmful's happening, but it's that kind of going with the flow a little bit. And I think Binty was very good at that. She really was good at intuitively knowing what my father-in-law needed and what my mother-in-law needed, and coming to a sort of happy balance of that. So, same with some of the others that have stepped in when she was away. So, I think it's reading the room and learning about who it is you're actually looking after. One mold doesn't fit all, no? It's like every single person with Alzheimer's is so different. So, do they like music? Do they like sleeping in the morning till 11? Do they like the garden? Do they like interaction, doing a puzzle, or does it frustrate and anger them? And it's that sort of, I guess you come into someone's home and you learn that as you go along. You can't know that before you get there, what you're going to get,
Lindsay obviously knew what she was doing to navigate your father-in-law's needs and mother-in-law's expectations at the same time, and to basically satisfy both needs, which is obviously more complicated than maybe looking after the individual.
100% more complex. You're dealing with two totally different type of brains,
Amazing. Looking back a year and a half or so ago when we first spoke, and then the solution that we worked on together, and the road that we took for your father-in-law, would you do it again, do you think? Or might you have a different solution?
No, I'd definitely do it again. I wouldn't do things differently. I think we've kept a living carer as long as humanly possible,
When I think about my dad who had dementia, the path wasn't as stressful as what you've described. He was very calm. He slept very well, and he managed to manage his own personal care and things like that. His short-term memory had gone. I would take him to a restaurant, and the waiter would come. You put the order in, and then my dad would say, "Right, we need to order because we need to eat." So, "Oh, just put the order in." They just, "Oh no, we haven't put the order in. What are you talking about? You're saying I'm stupid." But no, if anything, he was easier to work with than before he had dementia. But
This is much more advanced than that. This is the point. This is literally the last stages. He doesn't know what a sock is, or he doesn't know who his son is, or he doesn't know who his wife is. He doesn't, he just reacts best to certain environments which have like a happy atmosphere. So he picks up on all energy, so any negative energy, and that's not going to be a good day with him.
The environment should be as de-stressed and happy as possible, really, shouldn't it, for those with dementia? Any care option someone chooses is entirely dependent on a multiplicity of factors and family dynamic, the individual care needs of the person, the space available, all sorts of different factors. But what would your advice be to a family who are sort of considering living care, but who to figure out, is it right for them?
I would say if you want to maintain with the person the nicer parts of them and not deal with the incontinence or the throwing things across the room or the lack of conversation, and you want to still be with that person but be free to start living your own life as well, then it's essential to have a live-in. And it's essential to try to stick to the same person, because that really, by the end, Binti and Simon, they used to hold hands everywhere around the house. And down the street, and they just smile at each other, and they'd really developed a loving relationship. She was so good with him, and he really liked her. I mean, maybe once he chased her around the room with a wooden spoon, but mostly he really responded. And that just meant, that my mum-in-law could be a bit freer. She could come here for a weekend, or she could go and meet her friends for lunch. There was no worry about he's not safe and being taken care of.
Really sweet. Thanks for sharing all your experiences and being so super honest and open.
I feel like I could write a book on dementia now, honestly. I feel like I've become an expert.
Well, maybe you should, because of butchering dementia, a family member is, it's got a
Yeah.
certain perspective that potentially an expert may not.
I mean, I guess the best advice I could offer is that everyone in the family needs to be extremely open and honest about their feelings to each other, right from the start and the whole way through. It's okay to be angry at the person that's got ill. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to want them in a home, and it's okay to not want them in a home. But it has to be very openly, with no shame, discussed. That's my best advice. Because in hindsight, there's a lot that should have been discussed much more openly and as a family. I mean, they're not my family, but they may as well be. That would be my advice to someone that's embarking on this awful journey of dementia. Yeah.
Thank you.